Welcome to the channel. In this video, what I want to do is answer a couple of questions that were raised on my video about building elevated metro lines. So what I've decided is to come to this test city that I built in my Seven Crosses series, where I actually was testing out both building and using metro lines, both underground and elevated. And under here is actually an end-to-end line and a circular line. But before we get started, I just want to apologize for any lag, because as you look at the top here, this has got an operating population of 100 and nearly 115,000. And of course, unfortunately, most of the lag is centered around this large town, which I actually built to test the metro system. So in this video, so what I'm going to do in this video is first I'll give you an overview of what's actually going on here, and I'll show you the metro lines. Then I'll talk about the issues I had with respect to actually building them, because these metro lines were manually built to begin with, and then I had to do a bit of auto building to correct some changes, that because this was done at the time when the metro update was in the Steam test branch. Then in the final part, I'll talk about some of the mistakes I made in setting the route up and what you need to consider when managing the lines. So let's just get straight into it. We'll do the surface first. Now what we've got here is a pretty major city. Now this bottom section here isn't actually connected to the metro lines. I had to build this to build this. And the setup here is we've got a major metro interchange here, which actually, if I go back underground, has the loop on it and the end-to-end station. And we've got two metro stations side by side. We've also got a tram connection across the top here. This queue of tourists is quite interesting, because the actual hotels that I built down here are full because I brought in so many tourists. The tourists are coming in by metro, and then they're transferring the tram to go to the hotels. But if there's no spaces for them in the hotels, they actually just hang around the tram station, probably put up a few tents and sleeping bags and just sleep around the plaza here. Now, so we got this main commercial center here, and this is what this has got, is we got a really big radio station. I deliberately chose very big buildings so that I could create a demand in this area. And the main shopping mall is actually here. You can see that we're getting quite a lot of people coming into it now. We've also got a bar, restaurants. You've got the town hall here. You've got the hospital as well. Over here we've got a secondary school and another university and a little bit of kind of entertainment here. So the idea is to create a big demand in this commercial area here. And then what I've got is a big suburb over here, which has got the only thing it's got is a kindergarten and sport, because one thing I found for my testing is the two things that residents, well, for kindergartens the residents won't travel, because I did a test up here and I built a big kindergarten here, and basically the residents here, despite putting a tram link up to here, would not travel. But the residents, the school kids will. I don't know if we got any kids on this one here. The children will travel to school, but people won't travel to kindergartens. If you build any form of mass transport system, you've got to have a kindergarten in the local area. The other one is sports. I found that they will travel for sport, but they're very reluctant, and you will get complaints about the fact that they don't have access to sport. So we got this suburb here. We got, ignore this suburb. This one was set up to test the tram route. It's not particularly great. This one is a kind of mixed use one here. This little suburb here, you can see this one isn't doing quite so well. But the reason they've got food shortages and other shortages is the fact that the only facilities they've got here are kindergartens. Again, this is very much a test environment. And then we got another little suburb over here, which I was testing schools with. And again, this one's a bit more happier. But again, it's a mixture. We've got an interchange here, because I was hoping that workers would travel down to here, which they might do to get to here. to then transfer onto the metro station to go out to the workings area here. And what I've got out here on the closed loop metro is I've got a whole load of heavy industry out here. You see we've got an aluminium plant, we've got the sewage treatment plant, we've got the aluminium plant, we've also got a construction office here. A little bit more about that in a little while, although I think this is out of range, so I think I've actually got the workers for this being delivered by helicopter, because I made that wrong. Ignore this bit here, I'll talk about this in detail later on. Over here we've got an airport which is actually bringing in tourists. Again, I'll talk a little bit more about that. Then what we got up here is a major airline production area. Now, so this is the closed loop. Now the end-to-end loop, if I go underground, comes through here. So it starts up in the suburb here, comes through here, runs down through here. We've got a metro station here, which is kind of connected to this one. Then it pushes out all the way to this small industrial area here, where we've got a geothermal one and a prison. The prison didn't work quite so well. You can see here 213 escaped last year, 118. I just couldn't get enough workforce in here. And if anyone knows, if you know about crime and punishment, one thing you do need in when you're running a prison is a stable workforce. So I had to switch that off at the end. That test was a complete failure. But we are getting the firefighters into here. And this is the geothermal plant that actually supplies the workers to here. Thank you, game. The autosaves are very slow. And then running out through here, we've got another station here. And the idea behind this is that the residents living in here will use this to go to the university in the center there. Also, I did a little part of the experiment was to see whether residents from over there would travel this far to get to church. And what I will say is it's pretty sporadic. And then what we got over here is another tourist pickup point. If I go here, and what this is intended, there's a bus route comes to here delivering tourists. Some tourists are coming into this little hotel area here, but I've deliberately reduced it a bit to see if tourists will come in, because they come arriving by ship here. And what they're doing, and some tourists were actually prepared to jump on here and actually travel through the network. So that is the general layout of the city. And as I say, we got this quite complicated metro system. I've also got a little bit of experiment here, which I would classify as a partial success. And before you say, well, it's not very optimized, what I was experimenting here is whether I could have a tram metro interchange here. Well, it's a bit of a complicated interchange. We've got a metro station there. We've got the through tram here, bringing in workers and picking up workers. And then what we're getting is this tram is then picking up workers here, and then they're taking them out to the clothing industry over there. As I say, it's a partial success, because if I show you here, we've got nearly a full complement of workers in this area. And of course, what we've had to do is put a tram end station here, turn the trams around. So that is the setup. So what we're going to do now is just move on to the construction process, and probably the easiest one to explain is the end-to-end line. If I can find it, it doesn't show up very much. It's just here. And this is a kind of a follow-up, and I'll show you the mistakes that I made, which is one of the reasons why I made the video. Just let the game run slowly for the moment now, and hopefully the frame rate will hold up. And you can see here where I actually made the mistake which I mentioned, was the fact that I put the metro track here, assuming, I think originally I brought the connection from here and it didn't work, so I had to kind of botch in this line here. And what we got here is the depot, and then I had to put this electrified section in, because if you watch the previous video, there's the fact that this wasn't powered. because of the depot here. And then, of course, we've got the transition underground, which comes down to the end connection here to turn around the trains in here. This is by far the busiest metro station. So this worked eventually. Now, what the biggest mistake I made here, because this was the first line I built, was the fact that I actually used a rail construction office that was way over there. And if I'm going to give you a top tip about constructing metro, is you need a dedicated construction office to build the metro. Don't use a previous one. And this is the reason why I built this construction office. And if I show you the profile in here, what we've got is 3 EDK 300s track layers and 1 tunneling borer. Now, all you really need if you're building an underground track is 1 tunneling borer. The simple reason is that the way the borer works is, say for example, you've got a section of tunnel like this. Say this section here between the station and the power connector. Another digression is make sure you put plenty of power connectors in to keep the line stable. And of course, it's an expensive mistake if you're building manually, because if you break the tunnels and then build this, you've got to reconnect them back in again. But back to the borer, what the borer will do is will dig an entire length of tunnel. Now, so what a borer will do is they will bore the entire tunnel between these, say, between the railway station and the power connection. But if they don't have the workforce, it is painfully slow. That's the reason why you only have 1 boring machine, but you do need multiple of these EDK 300, because what happens is that all the metro lines, whether it's elevated or underground, need multiple passes. I can't remember how many passes. I think the underground line, it bores the tunnel, then it lines the tunnel, then I think it lays the track, and then I think it might electrify it. So don't quote me on it, but I think it's a 4-step process. And then of course the elevated sections are the same as when you build it anyway, which is you come in, you build the structure, I think it's laying the bricks, then you lay the track, and then you electrify it again. So the process of actually building is very intense. That's the reason why you do need a dedicated rail construction office. The other thing I will also say, one of the hazards of circular tracks is that the trains can get a bit confused if you're going in 2 directions, which is probably a good segue into this area over here. Now, this is the area where I actually build the circular track with, and what you see. Don't worry about these sections here. This was just me experimenting with using elevated stations mixed with surface track. And of course, what you got here is this connection here. You can see I've got the traditional 3-way because I was also experimenting about returning the metro station trains to the depot. And this is the arrangement you do need if you want to return them to the depot. And again, what I did was exactly the same mistake. I had to build in this power line to deliver the trains to the depot, and then we got this exterior connection here. And truthfully, this is a little bit over the top. And if you watch the video on building elevated sections, you see that I come up with a far more simpler design. The other thing also is this was a bit of a mess, because I was manually building the track coming in here, because of course the construction trains won't pass through the depot. The other thing here, you see I've got a power line here. Now what I've got over here is a surface end connector. So I clicked on the locomotive. So because it's done it again. Sometimes so we've got a ground level end station here, and next to it we've actually got a surface metro station. And the big building behind is actually its bigger brother. This is the large metro station. The reason they're here is simply down to the fact that I was experimenting, because when I first built this line, the only available end station was actually underground. And I think it was built here. This is why we got this horrible kind of kinks in the track here. But when they released the final version, they gave us the surface one. So I built this one up here to actually test it. And that's the reason why we got this here. And that's also the reason why, if we just go up to the map here, I'm just going to pull out here. You see the map's pretty big and congested. I've got to try and find, I think it's, and this is the reason why my end-to-end line over here, there's the church there, is actually underground. So if I come here, you find that this end station is actually underground. So if you were going to build it now, you could have actually, well, also because the track was underlined, but if you were building an end-to-end elevated station, you don't actually need this arrangement here. And of course we got a power connector into there. The other thing also I would say is that the tunneler can get a bit temperamental if you build very short lengths of tunnel. So what you want to do is put reasonable lengths between your buildings. That is the construction process. Now we better talk about how well this actually works. And as I've already hinted at, there's a few mixed results. If I go across to the busiest station, because one of the things that to really get a metro system, or making it worthwhile to actually build it, is that you do need to get a two-way traffic going. And if I start with this area here, this is by far the busiest station I've got. And what we'll do is, and if I actually, so we got this station here, it's called suburbs because it's a suburb experiment. What you can see is there's some transfer through with workers because there's not enough jobs here. If you actually watch now, you can see that this is really filling up very quickly because the people, you can also see, if I don't know if you guys can see, I'll just pause the game, come to the surface. You'll see that we're also pulling up workers from this area. So if I can, one of the downsides with underground metro stations is actually finding them. Well, there's also a positive side as well, because if you actually look at this, the metro station is actually here. You can see I've actually been able to build a building on top of the metro station here. But if I click, oh, the metro station was selected, wasn't it? Not selected anymore. Okay, where is it? There. If we come back up again, if I show you the range, you can see that this is also pulling in from this area here. Mainly workers, because of course this area was built up with all the normal facilities in it, including, I think that's the orphanage. So this metro station here is pulling in a really large number of people. You can see that this station is queued up, and just to give you an idea, I don't know how far away the other train is. There's a lot of trains on this route. In fact, I'll just show you that as well. You can see here we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 metro trains. It's probably not enough, to be honest, but anyway, we'll just let the game run, and what you'll see is the train will come out here. At the moment he's got, now this train has a capacity of 525 passengers. Now this is the main reason why you would use a metro system, because it's fantastic for moving really large numbers of people. If you watch the actual platform on here and watch them, you'll see the metro train filling up. And it's filling up with workers, passengers, students, everything, because this is an end station that's taking people to the central business system. And you can see we've actually emptied the suburbs here. So what we did is we picked up, well, we got nearly filled the train up, and if we actually follow the metro station, and actually just to show you, we pick this up to show you how busy this station actually is. I mean, this train has barely left the station, and you can see the station is already filling up again. And when we get in here, what you'll see is that everyone's going to be getting off here, and the reason for that is that this station here, this is the Podinska interchange, which is this one here, this Podinska line. If you see here, I've put a forced transfer on this one for everyone, so everyone has to get off here and possibly get back on again. The reason for that is that I found that because this was an end-to-end line, a lot of the workers were staying on this line. So what I did is force them all off, and what they should do, and they don't always do it, but what they often will do is, no, they haven't done it. They kind of gone up, and there must be plenty of jobs in this area now. So that is the way it's working there. And then what will happen is the train will carry, we can actually follow the train through. This is that the one that's just left the station? Yeah. So this one, where did all those passengers come from? Did they reload? Well, it's the same train. Did I click on the wrong one? Yeah, I clicked on the wrong one. So you see that what's happened is a lot of them got off, got back on again. If we follow this train now, and you see there's a few workers get off here, and then they will travel through here. And you can see we've actually got some students on here and other passengers. So if we go here, and we've lost some workers because this is the regional area. And I think I don't know if I can find any passengers. You can see there, what we'll do is we'll just follow the line back. We're coming into the station. And if you watch the entrances, oops, sorry. And what you'll see is they will come out of this station. If we can, what we've got now is a whole load of them. If you follow them, some of them are coming here, but you also find that some of them will be coming to church here. Not as many as they should do, but you get a few more now coming through. So they're actually making the journey to visit the church. And of course there's jobs out here as well. And some of them are probably coming for food. And then what will happen is, again, just to show you, where's the train gone? Lost it. I must admit, it's okay. We got another. I think this is. I'm not sure. I think this might be the same train coming back because we are playing at high speed. So let me just slow the game down. And what you'll see is the train will come in here. We've still got 80 workers on it because there's not enough jobs. So again, if you're running metro lines, you do need to have it there. But you can see what we've picked up now is we've got still got the 80 workers. So we didn't pick up any workers because I think this station is not set because this is the tourist station. So this one's not set to allow workers, I think, if I correctly, if we click on the station, yeah, workers are banned from here, so that you can only pick up tourists, students and ordinary people here. And I think that highlights one of the things you're going to need to do is when you're planning the route, you've got to adjust every station, who can use the station and who's picked up and who isn't picked up. And what you'll see is the station will come into here, and what you might find is that there'll be some getting off. No, yeah, so we got the students got off because they're going to school. We've picked up some more workers. We've still got 15 tourists on. Some of the tourists that got on at the previous station came here to visit cultural centres, possibly the church. And then we're going to pull away, and then we're going to run down the line again. We should stop here and drop a few workers off. So the workers are going into there, but the passengers didn't get off because the restriction, if I just pause again, come back to here, the restriction on this station is drop off only, I think. If I can find the I think it's called Alaska Geo Heat. Where are you? I think if we come here, you'll see that this station is unload only. Then what we'll do is we'll run through. Oops. Stop here. You can see we still got. I think we might have dropped a few workers off there. We didn't see it. And then what we'll do, come in here, what you should see is the tourists will get off, or should get off. And what happens is the tourists will travel up here to this station. And if we kind of let the game run, what you should see is the tourists should come up to here. And it's a bit difficult to see, actually. I think the part of the problem was is those passengers, ordinary passengers there. Yeah. Yeah, it just took a little while for the tourists to get up. So we've now got, and I think probably another train, the other tourist train came in. So we've got 40 tourists waiting here to go to their hotels. So what you've got now is the tourists have now come in by metro, transferred to the tram station that will come down to here. Now, one of the quirks of I've found with the hotels down here, and I don't know if this is the way the game paths, but if these hotels are full up, any tourists here will just wait until there's a vacancy. There we are. Before I finish up by giving you a tour of the circular route, one thing I do want to mention whilst we're actually in this area is if you're bringing large numbers of people into a shopping mall like this, really ensure that your food delivery system is working. This is the reason why I've had to put on auto purchase here for this demonstration, because the city was actually in the process of starting to collapse because I couldn't get enough food in here because there were so many people coming in here. You can see we've always got 100 odd people in here, plus and when it drops down and then the tram comes in and up it goes again, 100, 200, and you can literally see the food going down in real time. Key factor, if you're going to have centralized services, make sure that you've got plenty of support from that. And you can see we've got the Republic Theatre here. The university is doing really well. We've got maximum staff. In fact, you can see we've got students in the auditorium. So what we'll do now is I'm just going to show you the way that we start here. We've got this line coming in. You can see he's got 64 workers on it. That's because he's picked them up from here. And if we follow the line here, now this line doesn't force people off the station train here. And you can see we got the passengers getting off, but not many workers. So we're now setting off with 47 workers here. And this comes back to what I've already said, is that you've really got to concentrate on tailoring the lines. That also applies to trams. You can't just do the normal settings you would with a bus route. And again, it's just a... This is Pedansk work pickup, I think. Yes. This is the works pickup. And what I've done is that what gave me a bit of confusion there is the tram line. You can actually build a tram station over the top. You can see here we got 64 workers and passengers. But what you'll see is that because this is bi-directional, the workers are actually getting on the train going towards the industrial bit. Now, if I show you this train, then you'll see that the workers are getting on one train. Well, no, that train's moved off. But the passengers and students are going the other way. And got another one coming in, and he will pick up like that. And what you'll see is, whoops, this train has already got ahead of us. And what you'll see is that all the workers have got off for this area. Now, this is one of the problems that you have with the circular route, is the fact that, and this is the reason why, if I show you these, the workforce here is restricted, because what happens is if you can bring a lot of workforce out to this area here, but if there's jobs in the area, everyone will get off, which is no good if you want extra workers to come into this area. But what you'll see is, I don't know if there's no workers on that, because what you've got is the reverse is true here, that the so like, for example, I don't know how many workers will be on this train. Not many, because a lot of the workers have got off to go to the heating plant here. I think I've got, no, this heating plant's off. We're actually using this one, but in theory, this one, you can see that again they're all dropped off here. We go into the heating plant here. So when you're designing the route, you've got to pay a little bit more attention to that. And I don't think we've got 4 ordinary passengers on here. I don't know how they managed to get on the train. So hopefully that clarifies the way that you've actually got to tune the line here. Now, have we got an airplane landing? Because I would like to demonstrate that you've actually got any tourists on. Yes, you have. Right, so what I'm going to do is we're just going to let the game run. It takes a little while because the airport's so big, because we got the station here. What I'll do is I'll wait for the aircraft to land here, and then I'll show you the tourist routes. And you watch the aircraft come in. What will happen is in fact we got two, looks like we got 2 airports. Now the way that the aircraft are working is some are bringing them in. What we're bringing in is a mixture of tourists from both NATO and the Soviet Republic. So what will happen is, if you watch the footpath there, they all go up to here. Now if we get, oh, that's a bit coincidental. What you'll find here is that this station here, Speed Airport, we come to Speed Airport. What you'll see here is that this is set to only pick up tourists. So if you watch this train come into here, what you'll find is that all the tourists will get on. I think the second plane load have got missing, so we'll just follow this route here. We'll just follow this guy. So we got, how many? We got 40 tourists on here, and then we'll just follow the train round. This station here is set, not basically, the train will stop, but it won't actually drop anyone off because the tourists aren't interested. Plus it's restricted, I think, if I remember correctly. And then we'll come to this elevated section here, and again we're not picking anyone up. This is more optimistic for overflow of workers. Then we'll go underground, and what you will see is I'll stay above ground, so apologies. We're now coming up to this station. You can see what this one's got is 43 workers running, but I think this station, which is Vakara North, what you see is this one is basically open plan, so workers and ordinary people can go any way they want. Because although I think probably I would set this to on this route. One thing you do need to be aware of is which way your trains are going when you set these stations up. So I'm kind of not convinced I need to load the workers here, because we got more than enough workers in the city centre. But then again, we got lots of people here as well. So and of course the train had already moved on. We just get this here, and if we got this here, let the game run. What you'll see is all the tourists will get off, and then they will come up here into here, which I've already shown you before. So that's how the circular route goes. So in conclusion, Metro can be incredibly powerful if you want to build a large city to support a very extensive industry. Because again, if I show you a quick preview, I mean, I could start, my original plan was to build this city up even more, but that's why everything's a bit spaced out. The original plan was to infill all these areas. That's why we've got a tram stop in here, and try and get together a fully integrated network. But truthfully, I was sunk by the update, and also by the fact that trying to keep it all together and build stuff was getting a little bit too much, especially with respect to the lag. Although I'll be completely honest, lag hasn't been too bad in this area. returning to the conclusion, it's a very good mass transit system. As I say, if we just see what the situation is in here, you can see we've already got 46 workers. This train is already leaving with what, nearly 500 passengers on it. So for moving very large numbers of people around an urban area and getting them out for a workforce, it is a really good system, but it does need a lot of planning, a lot of investment as well. More importantly is you can't reverse engineer this into an existing city. At the same time, it does mean that you can use really big buildings like this medical university and centralize a lot of your services. Just remember that kindergartens are a no-no, sports a problem, and probably the food, having a central mall is not particularly a very good idea. So you still really need to have some decentralized food services to keep things going. But beyond that, it can be very useful and very effective. Again, the end-to-end line, if you've got, say, a major center like this, and you've got a town nearby that you don't want to build it up completely with universities and stuff like that, the end-to-end line can be worked. And you can see if you've got the airport or a connection, bringing in tourists using the metro systems and can be very effective as well. And the final point is that metros are definitely a late game mass transport system. You certainly need the cash to support it, and also if you're building everything manually, you're going to need a large supply of materials, and it will still take a very long time, because you've got to because in some ways you've got to build the infrastructure, say the specialized construction office, and get all the supplies out to be able to get it running in the first place. Buying the trains is very expensive. If I show you here, just to finish off, I'll show you metro trains, bearing in mind that we're in the year 2000, you are talking 13-14 million. And of course, if you wanted to build your own metro trains, I can't remember, where's I think the rail construction office over here. I've never really looked at the templates here, but I can imagine what the license templates for metros is. There we are. You know, to buy the templates to build your own metros, you can see here 178 million, 372 million. I mean, if you get earlier, they might be a bit cheaper. I mean, even in dollars, it's 124 million. Building a metro is not cheap. Even if you build it manually with lots and lots of resources, you still got to buy the trains, unless of course you want to buy the templates. But to spend 178 million on a template to build one line with, say, 20 things, and I can't remember if I actually showed this to you, and apologies for this kind of extended outro, but if I go back underground, we'll find a line. Where's the train here? We look at the line here. You see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 metro trains. That's in one direction. So this line is taking 10 metro trains. And then this one, because it's an end-to-end, only has a single thing, but I'm pretty sure I've got 6 on here. The power stoppage there is the fact one of them is in an end station at the moment. So you can say that just to run this single metro station under this city is using 16 metro trains. So this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it interesting. Any questions, comments, feel free to chuck it in the video description. And until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.